Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where I am joining you today at roughly 10 past 1 in the early hours of the day with a fresh cup of green. Now today we're going to start off with talking about something that is arguably something bad, but the community is sort of split on it, or at least as I have seen so far. I am of course talking about imagination, and if you thought that the two previous days, let's say, that we've been dealing with this sort of issue, topic, problem, challenge, however you want to say it, and you thought that it's so boring, he's always into work, he's always into the career stuff, then you might be in luck today, because today we're going to talk about imagination and not bringing your problems home. Yes indeed, because we're going to talk about that free time. Now the reason why I say that I might start with something that's a bit sad in this regard is because based on the research that I've done, which should be mentioned is sort of limited, yeah? I ain't going to say that I'm an expert on the subject by the research that I've done, but based on the existing research, yeah, I know I'm establishing context way too much here. Most people tend to do the same problem that they do at work when it comes to creativity, expression, and imagination in their free time, which is that when most people tend to come home, they just roll straight into the habits that they have developed. Now, the difference between rolling into a habit that you've developed at home in your free time, in the leisure of your own home, and the one at work is that, well, as I said, you have developed this one all by yourself. So you can argue that some form of creativity has gone into you developing your own habits. Some form of structure has been made. Your left and your right brain has probably been working in harmony in order to figure out what sort of things you will truly enjoy on your day off. And surely you shouldn't work on your day off. That is not what I'm trying to say here, but it's just interesting to me that most people just tend to chill home, relax, and do the exact same thing day in and day out, day in and day out, all throughout the week, all throughout the month, all throughout the year, with some small hiccups, I'd say, or some small interventions, let's say, in between, which is sort of Christmas and midsummer festivals and stuff like that. But usually people are on this rail of things that you just want to do. And what tends to happen when you do this is that, well, you look back at your life, let's say. You look back at the previous year and you think, what have I truly accomplished? What have I been doing? Did I really write that book that I thought I was going to do? Let's check back. No, I did not. Okay, instead, did I indeed start singing last year as I said that I would? No, it doesn't tend to be that case either. Now, did I watch TV for 7 hours a day after I got home from work? Oh yeah, I did that every single day. Now, was that on my bucket list? No, it wasn't. You see, that kind of mentality is what drags down imagination, that you don't try anything on your free time, on your spare time, in your spare time, that actually change up your everyday life in a significant way. Obviously, as in work, you need to be comfortable in what you're doing in order to actually change it to begin with. Otherwise, you will probably bring on more stress than is necessary. Now, wouldn't you? Yes, you probably would. And that is the exact argument against that this is a bad thing. The people who say that this is actually a good thing. Because you probably encountered people, me myself, I should say that I'm included in this, who say that don't just run around and go on the track all day. You need to step off. And maybe you stepping off is you just stepping onto another track, which is sort of your leisure time track, your leisure time track. That could be the case, but you need to step off the work track for a once in a while. You don't want to bring home with you, you don't want to bring work with your home, and you don't want to bring your home to work. You want to be able to have a place where you can truly relax, because that is also fostering imagination. It's fostering the creativity within you, because it allows your brain to relax. It allows it to make all of the different connections that it might not have been seeing throughout the day, that it might have been presented with during the day, but haven't truly seen. Yet again, if we talk about the career, if you talk about work, you might have worked with two tasks, but you watch them in isolation. Now, what you do when you go home is that instead of thinking about these actively, like, oh, task 1 and task 2, what am I supposed to bloody do with them? You go home, you take a relaxing day off, so to say, when you go off of work, when you go out of work, you sit down and you truly just relax. You don't think about work at all. Now, when you go back to work, since you haven't been thinking about it every single hour, minute, second of the previous day, you will probably come in with a new and fresh perspective, and you're more likely to find out a new solution when you come in with a fresh perspective than if you have thought about it for the last 24 hours. Now, obviously, there are situations where this isn't the case, when it's good to think about it for 24 hours, such as big decisions in life, but arguably you should probably try and mix them. But some people say it's really good, some people say it's really bad, that you have this track that you get onto when you get home. Now, most likely, the truth is somewhere in between. You shouldn't just be doing the same thing over and over and over again, because that's boring and unfulfilling. Simultaneously, you shouldn't just be changing stuff for change's sake. Yet again, coming back to this idea, not changing for change's sake, because that will probably only make you more stressed out, more focused on work, because you can't focus on your spare time, because you feel like your spare time is made up of things that you can't really relax in, which makes work your place where you're supposed to relax, or your body feels like it can relax, which isn't good either, because that's the one place where it probably can't relax in the same stretch of the imagination, or where people assume that you aren't relaxing, that you're actually working, because it's, paid time. So the truth, as I said, is probably somewhere in between those two. Now, the reason why you should try to apply imagination to your spare time, because some of you might just be sitting there and be like, haha, why should I bloody need to, right? Why should I need to apply any form of imagination and creativity to my life when I'm not at work, because I'm not getting paid, so why should I be focusing on that? Well, one reason, as we've been bringing up, is the idea of sort of, fulfilling your life, making it feel like you've actually filled it up with things that you can be happy about that you've done. For instance, if we take me, instead of just walking around all day and playing different instruments and just throw my entire spare time into different instruments and throwing it into writing and throwing it into playing video games, where video games is probably a very qualified majority of the things that I do simultaneously as I watch series, I can instead work with this. Now, as I've said previously, I might not get to millions, billions, and trillions of views or subscribers, right? But it's something different to do. It's an imaginative way for me to just let loose, let go, and use my leisure time so that I can actually fulfill something that I want to do, right? So sort of this fulfillment again, that you want to try out something in your spare time that you can actually work with, or that you can actually use, that is sort of a relaxing state. Anyway. And by the way, sometimes when I've been doing these, I have mentioned that it's sort of stressful because it's this self-imposed stress. So, but at times like these right now, I feel like I'm very comfortable with doing it. So that is why it's actually a relaxing process, just so that I don't talk against myself, so to say, and talk in my own mouth and coming up with counter arguments to things I've said before. But sometimes it's stressful, sometimes it's really nice. It's just a swing of the pedal, right? And that brings us into the second idea, why you should apply imagination to your leisure time. And that is because you should try and do it in interesting ways. I know that this is sort of connected to fulfillment, but maybe not necessarily. Now, what I'm trying to say is that if you just enjoy your leisure time the same every single day, you're probably going to be stuck in this mindset that everything is the same. You're very used to that everything is the same because everything is always the same. It runs on the same old tracks in the same direction for the same amount of time for the same reason. Now, in order to bolster your own imagination, which we've been talking about the previous 2 days, can probably benefit you at work, you need to get into the mindset of actually being creative to bring out the child within, so that you can deal with your emotions, I would say, on your free time, and that you truly deal with your emotions so that you don't have to bring them back to work, and that you don't, tend to bring work back home with you. You need to be very creative in how you do this, and then you should try to be very imaginative of how you apply different ways of dealing with emotions on your spare time so that you don't have to take them back to work with you. So that you find a nice kind of equilibrium in between where you are, right? Between work life and your, social life? Let's just say it like that, right? So your work life and your social life. You want to find a good sort of equilibrium in between where you feel like you're fulfilled, but simultaneously not overwhelmed. Which is, believe me, easier said than done. You probably don't even need to take my word for it. You can probably just view your own situation and be like, yeah, that's true. It's easier said than done to juggle all of these things. That's why you need to be creative about it, because only you can come up with a solution that is actually going to benefit you directly. I can come up with one that benefits me, but when applying it to, for say, my brother, that might be more stressful than relaxing. Same thing if he applies his version to me. I might find his version of relaxing more stressful than relaxing. See what I'm saying? It's sort of abstract in a way, but I'm trying to make it as concrete and physical as I can, so that you can actually understand what I'm trying to get at here. And due to this being the case, that only you can come up with a solution that is going to fit you, you need to spark your own creativity, your own imagination. You can't just walk around and stay around for someone to come and do that to you, come and introduce you to something that will reduce the amount of stress in your life. Now, some things might be very general, so generally they can be applied to each and every one. So for instance, that could be something along the lines of take a break once in a while. It won't hurt you to, stop everything you're doing and just sit down and have a few minutes to just sort of relax and think about what you've done and sort of, get perspective on things. That can be generally applied to almost everyone in the world, right? Simultaneously can also be applied, the other thing that I said, that you should go up and, lift your sorry ass and do something. Don't just be that lazy person who sits in all the time. Actually do something with your time once in a while. But that obviously applies to the people who feel like they do not do enough things already. Simultaneously, as the other subject was that if you feel like you're working too much all of the time, even in your spare time, then it wouldn't hurt you to sit down for a while. So it's sort of identification with what we want to do. So some of these things, as I said, apply to basically everyone. For instance, take a walk. Great amount of perspective that can be gained there. You probably won't be working with anything else. You don't have the opportunity to really stress yourself up about things. Simultaneously, you've been outside, you can feel good about it, you've been moving around. That means that you probably can enjoy your dinner, your snack, or whatever a bit more at the end of the day when you come home. And some people might say, well, actually just taking a walk, how will that help me bolster my creativity and my imagination? Well, if I say it like this, don't let Mother Nature fool you in its simplicity, because the nature all around us can be sort of complex and can be the source of inspiration, and has been the source of inspiration for many artists out there, right? There has been a lot of artists who have said that, I was just walking around, I was looking at this view, or they were saying, I was swimming in the ocean, or I was seeing this fish, I was on a travel experience, something along those lines. Just where you are in the world and how you interact with the world around you can actually bolster your creativity a whole lot. And you shouldn't, underestimate that power that, nature has on us all. Simultaneously, walking around, if you don't tend to do it very often, especially if you have a job where you sit down a lot of the time, can help you get your blood circulation going. And if your blood circulation gets going, then you feel better, and just by virtue of feeling better, perhaps you can start doing things that you before thought, I ain't gonna do those things because I don't feel very well. But after you've been out and walking, perhaps you feel more inclined to do those things, which will bolster your creativity again, because you will go off the rails of what you usually do, because now you have the extra energy to do so. Maybe you incorporate that in your habits, so to say, and then after a while you might need to actually skip your walk for once in a while. Has happened to me since I've been walking, for an hour a day almost every day for the last 4-5 years, something along those lines. And sometimes you just found myself in weeks where I say like, what, this week I'm only going to walk 3 out of 7 days, or 4 out of 7 days, and that gave me so much much time to do other things. So there it kind of works in the opposite direction. The time that you've sort of spent walking, you can now spend doing something else, because you do have the energy, because your body is in the habit of actually going out and walking around. So it's in the habit of actually creating this energy. So these are some of the things that are general enough, let's say, to apply to everyone in order to sort of bolster or create their own, well, create, I'm saying bolster is probably a better word, to improve and develop your own imagination and creativity. Now, something that should not be underestimated as well is just playing an old-fashioned game. If you have kids, this is probably the perfect way of doing it, if you're not doing it each and every single day and you just feel sick about it, but hopefully you don't. You should try and apply your imagination to match the level of your child, or to match the level of what you think you were like as a child. For instance, a couple of, well, what is it now? Years back, after my second exam at university, me and a friend built an old-fashioned fortress in our room. Yeah, I know. A pillow fortress, let's say, with all this stuff included. Now, this wasn't any form of quote-unquote dirty or misunderstood pillow fortress. It wasn't for that case, let's say. It wasn't for that intention. No, the intention was simply to get out of what we had been doing the previous 6 months. More realistically, the previous 5 months, right? Yeah, the previous 5 months. When we'd been in school, when we'd been working hard, when we had been staying for like 6 to 12 to even 16 hours at university. And just get out of that mindset, because we hadn't had a lot of free time, and in order to get back to reality, so to say, in order to sever the connection and going on a break from being at university for 12 to 16 hours a day up until the examination, we built a fortress and just let loose. We thought, what would we do as kids? What would I think to be really interesting and really funny as a kid? We went out and we played with sticks. We did all of those things. And if people saw us, they would only see like 2 18, 19, 20-year-old guys, or men, so to say, playing with sticks. And they would be like, that's rather odd. But that is the thing. Yes, it might be a bit odd, but it's actually a good thing, because that helped me, at least personally, right? And me, mate, I assume, to bolster our creativity, to bolster our imagination on what we were actually doing, gain some perspective on the reason why we've come so far and actually studied at uni. So, if you apply imagination and a creative thinking in your everyday life, and you should do it in a way that's fun, that's very relaxed, that you don't have to think about it that actively, then your perspective on both your life, your free time, and work can be improved, which will lead to that you will probably have a better time both at work and in your spare time. Now, there are some very specific ways of how you can go about this that I would say is general enough to apply to everyone, but it's very specific in which sort of genre or which sort of category that they are in. Those we will talk about more tomorrow. Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be all great, mate. It's gonna be all fine. So, that was everything from me today, mates. I'm probably just gonna leave you... No, just... And that didn't work out as I thought. I had a quote in my mind that I forgot. Have a nice one, mates. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.